In Palestine, the Israeli regime continues its genocidal siege on Gaza. Occupation troops killed 97 civilians in the last 24 hours. In the United States, voters go to the polls in the decisive Super Tuesday, a primary election day that defines, in a large part of the country, the favorite for the Democrat and Republican nomination in 2024. In Venezuela, citizens commemorate Commander Hugo Chavez's legacy 11 years after his physical departure. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In Palestine, 97 civilians were killed in the last 24 hours after Israeli shelling targeted homes in the cities of Gaza and Khan Yunis. Israel intensified its bombardment of different points in the Gaza Strip, which left families trapped under the rubble of residential buildings. Israeli airstrikes killed 25 civilians in Khan Yunis, 17 of whom were killed in the shelling of Al-Fakawi family house. At the same time, several citizens were wounded in an Israeli bombardment in Al-Rashid Street. During the last day, the occupation army fighter jets launched violent attacks on several areas in the north and south of the Gaza Strip. On the other hand, medical sources at the Shifa medical complex in Gaza reported the arrival of 9 dead. Several medical facilities throughout the territory were forced to close due to damage and lack of electricity. The World Health Organization warned about the death of infants from starvation in 2 hospitals in northern Gaza. The Director General of World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom, informed that the last visit to the hospital centers of Al-Adwa and Kamal Adwa indicated serious diagnosis due to malnutrition, dehydration, and lack of medical supplies. The authority highlighted that in the last 2 weeks alone, 15 children died due to lack of water and food. According to the United Nations, famine in Gaza has become almost inevitable due to the Israeli aggression against the Strip. 1 out of 6 children suffers from acute malnutrition, and it is estimated that 3% face the most severe form of wasting and require immediate treatment. In the occupied West Bank, Israeli occupation forces today detained at least 22 Palestinians, including 2 female former prisoners and a woman, during large-scale detention campaigns, according to the Detainees Affairs Authority. The detention campaigns were distributed in the governorates of Ramallah, Al-Bireh, Hebron, Nablus, Tulkram, Kalkija, and Jericho, where they were accompanied by acts of abuse, severe beatings, and threats against detainees and their families. The total number of arrests increased since the beginning of the conflict on October 7th to more than 7,422 people. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, based in Ramallah, at least 420 Palestinians have been killed in the West Bank by Israeli troops and settles since the conflict broke out. Relatives of 10-year-old Najar, who was killed during an Israeli raid on Monday, mourned over his body ahead of funeral in the occupied West Bank village of Burin, south of Nablus.
I called his father and he told me Amma was mad tired. I went outside and started screaming. There were no tears. I didn't wail like other mothers. God brought patience to my heart. I went to his school 2 days ago to check on him. The teacher told me, "You came to ask about his politeness and cleverness?" He said Amma is the most polite child in all of Burin.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken called on Hamas to accept an immediate ceasefire with Israel as the militants met in Qatari and Egyptian mediators in Cairo City. Blinken's request contradicts the U.S. position to date, which has opposed supporting a ceasefire in Gaza as called for by the United Nations.
But of course, most immediate and most urgent on our minds and in our focus is the situation in Gaza. And here, we have an opportunity for an immediate ceasefire that can bring hostages home, that can dramatically increase the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Palestinians who so desperately need it, and can also set the conditions for an enduring resolution.
On Monday in Chile, hundreds of demonstrators mobilized to protest against the administration of Benjamin Netanyahu and to demand the end of the genocide in the Gaza Strip. In this sense, Chileans gathered in front of the Israeli embassy in Santiago, the capital city, claiming the end of the conflict in the Gaza Strip and also demanding the government of Gabriel Boric to break all kinds of relationships with Tel Aviv. Since the beginning of the Israeli attacks against the Gazans, the people of Chile have expressed their solidarity with the Palestinians and have asked for the support of their presidency, while Boric in November called for consultations with his ambassador to the occupied territories due to the continuous attacks of the Israeli regime in Gaza.
This calls to me as humanity. It cannot be that after 5 months we are still living, experiencing and watching this massacre only on our cell phones instead of being outside here at the Israeli embassy, protesting and demanding that the first thing that should happen in this country is that the criminal embassy should.
Let's take a short break, but remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates and more. All the stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back. In the United States, voters go to the polls in the decisive Super Tuesday, a primary election day that defines in a large part of the country the favorite for the Democrat and Republican nominations in 2024. There are 15 states and the territory of Samoa holding primary elections in which, on the Democratic side, Joe Biden, current president and candidate for a second term in the White House, measures the enthusiasm of voters towards him. On the Republican side, the struggle continues between former President Donald Trump and former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley, who has on Tuesday her last chance to find out if she can continue in the race. The so-called Super Tuesday is a day in which a large number of individuals elected in each state to represent the Democratic or Republican Party at the national convention that determines a presidential candidate are at stake. The United States will hold presidential elections on Tuesday, November 5th of 2024, from which the 47th occupant of the Oval Office will emerge to lead the nation from January 2025 to January 2029. Congress will also be renewed in the 435 seats in the House of Representatives and 33 of the 100 seats in the Senate. In addition, governors and other state and local authorities will be elected. The anticipated revenge duel is between Biden and Trump. An independent candidate, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., will be competing, but for some analysts, his presence on the ballot will only drain votes. Of the United States suspended a new law of the state of Texas that allowed the detention of migrants. In this way, the U.S. Supreme Court's decision temporarily paralyzes the measure that allows the police to detain migrants who enter the country irregularly. It should be noted that over the past few months, Republican Governor Greg Abbott has introduced a series of increasingly strict measures at the U.S.-Mexico border to limit the passage of Latin American migrants. At the same time, the Justice Department told the court that the new law would fundamentally alter the status quo that has existed in the immigration context for nearly 150 years, and argued that Texas policies would have significant and immediate adverse effects on relations between the two countries. In China, the 14th National People's Assembly began its second session on Tuesday morning at the Great People's Palace in Beijing. Chinese Premier Li Qiang presented the report on the government's work at the meeting. Several Chinese leaders, such as President Xi Jinping, made an appearance together with 2,872 deputies of the Assembly. During the 7-day session, the deputies will analyze the report on the work proposal for the 2024 plan for the economic and social development of the country. The forum will also discuss the organic law of the Council of State, the work reports of the Standing Committee of the National People's Assembly, the Supreme Court, and the Supreme People's Procurator's Office.
Achieving this year's targets will not be easy, so we need to maintain policy focus, work harder, and mobilize the concerted efforts of all sides. We will pursue progress while ensuring stability, promote stability through progress, and work on the basis of establishing the new before discarding the old.
In South Korea, the government is threatening to take legal actions against thousands of junior doctors that have been on strike for weeks now. The second Deputy Health Minister Park Min-soo reported that this major action reaffirms the government's line that doctors should be held accountable for their actions. In this frame, the government has so far officially confirmed the suspension of the licenses of 7,000 medical staff members. Currently, about 9,000 medical residents and interns in the country have been absent from their workplaces for 2 weeks in a protest against a government plan to enroll 2,000 more students in the country's medical schools for the next few years, a plan that, according to the striking doctors, could affect the quality of health care.
In fact, as a single trainee doctor, I am anxious and I question what if my doctor's license actually gets suspended. So, because I enjoy to cook, as a joke I say I will open a brunch restaurant. But actually I am anxious and scared about this situation. I personally question whether I truly live in a democratic country.
We have a final short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our WhatsApp community for our English-speaking audience, you can scan the QR code on screen to join directly or share the link to reach more people. Constant news coverage of Latin America and the Caribbean, as well as the rest of the world. Stay connected and informed with teleSUR. Final short break. Don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. Venezuela's National Electoral Council announced Tuesday that the presidential elections in the Bolivarian nation will be held on July 28, 2024. The announcement was made by the president of the Electoral Authority, Elvis Amoroso, who also said the electoral registration will be from March 18th to April 16th, and that the presentation of candidates will take place from March 21st to March 25th. Amoroso also informed that the electoral campaign will begin on July 4th and will end on the 25th. The CNE's announcement comes after signed agreements following large-scale consultations throughout the political spectrum of the country. The people of Venezuela pay tribute to the legacy of the commander and leader of the Bolivarian Revolution, Hugo Chavez Frias, on the 11th anniversary of his death. From early hours, the people of Venezuela pay tribute to Hugo Chavez from different areas of Caracas, the capital of the country. The main event is taking place at the mountain barracks, where people may visit the remains of the commander and remember his legacy. At 4:30 p.m. local time, the authorities and those present took part in the gun salute in honor of the revolutionary leader. During the visit to her father's grave, Rosine Chavez Rodriguez expressed her pain at the physical departure of her father and assured that his memory gives her the strength to fight for the dream of the homeland and a better world.
I have not been able to talk to you that for a few years, but the fact of thinking of you, of reading you, of listening to you, of studying you, of dreaming with you, of remembering you, and above all, of remembering your infinite love, give me back the strength to continue with words. I can't express how much I miss you. But I promise you that I try to transform that same pain day after day into an impulse for life itself. An impulse to be a better person, to grow and give the best of myself. An impulse to help, to dream and fight for a better world. An impulse to continue building this great and beautiful country that you dream so much and for which you fought so hard.
In Nicaragua, a special session was held at the National Parliament in commemoration of the anniversary of the physical departure of the leader of the Venezuelan Revolution, Hugo Chavez. In the solemn session, the Nicaraguan Congress expressed its solidarity and highlighted the bonds of friendship between Venezuela and Nicaragua. The parliament honored the man who gave impulse to the Bolivarian Revolution and that Hugo Chavez's legacy has crossed borders for the benefit of the Latin American peoples. The deputies highlighted the anti-imperialist work of Commander Chavez, the same feat performed by the national hero, General Augusto Cesar Sandino. At the same time, the Parliamentary Group of Friendship with Venezuela highlighted the lasting legacy of the Venezuelan leader and emphasized that the ideologies, anti-imperialist struggles, and the dream of a free and sovereign homeland promoted by Chavez continue to resonate in the minds.
Let us remember those moments when our country, our homeland, our people was subjected to 12 and even 14 hours of darkness, without light, and Chavez's spared no effort and brought us the Hugo Chavez plans, which made the connections in this process of a strategic transformation that Commander Daniel is carrying out.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.